Hello YouTube, Jumpy23 here, welcome back to my FE8 0% LTC, and today we have Chapter 15. The first thing that we have to do here is rig a few enemy stats. Angelic needs to roll down on speed, as does a mercenary toward the middle of this map. Neither of these is very unlikely, fortunately. Speaking of which, here's a fun fact. Some cutscenes in this game burn RNs, so if you skip them, you'll get a different RN sequence on the map after. This is one. I can't skip the cutscene until Erica's group have finished walking onto the map. Cormag actually doubles Angelic even who rolled up on speed at first, but that's because he can't handle Tomahawk's weight. If Angelic switches to the Silver Axe, 14 speed Angelic will not be doubled. Chapter 15 is another dense route map like Chapter 13. It's perhaps even denser, even though the map is slightly larger, because almost every enemy is located along the south or west edge of the map. We've also got more powerful toys to play with at this point. Most importantly, a fully roided out Cormag and Duessel, who are both ready to kick ass, so it's actually not a very hard map. As most desert maps do, there are also hidden items all along the map which our units have a luck % chance of collecting when they stand on the appropriate tiles. If we weren't rigging, Renak would be very good here for the guaranteed pickup of desert items, but we are, so... Fortunately, we don't need to pick up too many of these items, just the Warp, Body Ring, and Swift Souls. This map will be the first turn save we've seen, which is entirely unlocked by having Super Cormag. He's able to solo Angelic's entire group by himself with fairly reasonable reliability. As with the Talisman, Cormag holds off and preps on using the Angelic Robe just yet, although it will eventually go to him. That's unfortunate because the Robe would turn his reliability from not too bad to quite good, but it would cost a turn next chapter. Forde and Ephraim are in charge of the 3 enemies near the village and getting the Body Ring. Tana literally does nothing except pick up the boots. Saleh, Ennis, and Erica will be able to handle all of the enemies which are near their starting positions, and Natasha and Tethys will hang around at their starting positions spamming Barrier. This leaves everybody else, Duessel, Seth, Gerik, Joshua, Duessel, Renak, to handle going south, and we're going to need all of them. Valther's group is a menace, with many enemies that don't suicide on enemy phase and or have very high stats. First thing Erica does is grab the elixir from Ennis. Saleh's going to need it, but he can never stand next to Ennis to take it. Erica is the intermediary for this trade. This merc is the one I needed to roll down on speed so that Saleh could one-round him. As in Chapter 13, enemies down here are too bulky to enemy phase with hand axes and javelins. We're going to enemy phase everyone with our strongest weapons, the Killer Axe and Garn, and then clean up the 2-range enemies on player phase. For the first time I'll play through, Seth hangs back, just trading the Killer Axe onto Gerik. We're finally getting to the point of the game where his bulk is insufficient. On this map, he's especially challenged by the Rangers, which have a deserved reputation for being fucking brutal. They have 16 AS, so they double him, and they hit quite hard. Ephraim stands here to give Natasha a barrier target next turn, who's in range of Tethys dancing, but will not put Tethys in range of the mercenary and archers near the village. Cormag gets the Master Seal, which we'll use to promote Tana. And it's handy that this Shaman drops Luna, so we can save 1 Silver Lance use with a convoy swap. But we don't end up breaking the Silver Lance, so, you know, meh. Forde stands on this tile to block Tethys from all the enemies. Over 3 turns, he can't quite kill everyone with the Javelin, so he'll need to use the more inaccurate Short Spear on the more reliable enemy phases, which are the 1st and 3rd. Tana's movement is very scripted, so she can hit the Swift Souls in 3 turns without aggroing any enemies. There's like 1 tile that she can stand on every turn. For some reason, this merc likes attacking Ennis from the right. That's very helpful as it allows us to get a bow counter on the Berserker, who could attack from 1 range if he weren't blocked. If Cormag killed every fighter this enemy phase, this area would have become way more reliable, but we have backup strats because he failed. Similarly, if Gerik were to dodge every Cavalier and Fighter, the 2-range enemies would attack Duessel instead, which would be great for us. But again, we have backup strats. Gerik doesn't need any crits with the Killer Axe on this enemy phase, but they do make things more reliable by covering for misses. Also, the Killer Axe has better hit than the Steel Axe, so that's the other reason we wanted him to be able to use it. Forde can afford to miss one of these archers every turn, but he must hit the other archer every turn. As in, like, he has to hit the same archer all 3 turns. Cormag has to dodge 1 hit, he chose that one, and Innes has to dodge this Berserker on this turn or the next. I rigged it for this turn because he's standing on a tree, and on the next turn he won't be. Tana could pick up the Wormslayer here, but we don't need it, so I don't bother to rig it. One fun desert items trick I learned from Don151 is that if you perform an action on a tile, then canto away, you can pick up a desert item at each leg of this movement. Cormag uses this here to pick up the Warp Staff on turn 2, and the movement range of the fighter that he left alive. If I wanted, Cormag could pick up the Silence where he ends this turn, but again, I don't need it, so I don't rig it. If Cormag had left no fighters alive, he could end his turn in range of Kellic and use the spear on this enemy phase to chip Kellic low enough for a reliable kill next turn. Technically, he could still do this with a living fighter, but his survivability is too bad. Natasha only needs A staves for final 1, but she needs to promote for chapter 19, so we have to dance her a lot for XP's sake. If Forde hits every attack every turn, he does not need help with these unpromoted scrubs. That's unlikely, so Ephraim moves up to help, as he's doing nothing important anyway. And these rangers are so strong that we need to rig mid% crits on them to kill. Joshua with a killing edge just doesn't do enough damage even with a crit. Similar to my dreams of a reliable Kellic kill, I had dreams of a reliable Valter kill that were dashed. Duessel Garm into Seth Dragon Spear cleanly kills Valter, however, Duessel needs to be very damaged on this enemy phase for AI Manip, and with Garm he's just got too much Avoid for that to happen reliably. Seth trades him the Dragon Spear here for this enemy phase, which means I will need to crit Valter next turn. And then Seth kills the Berserk Troubadour instead of the Physic one because she's a lot scarier. Bit of a break, let's talk about new units. Innes is a sniper with decent bases who's nonetheless useless after this chapter because he only has 6 move. I appreciate that he helps me a lot with combat on this map though. Erica is still Erica and thus still useless. Saleh is a sage with 16 magic and thus 8 staff range, but only C staves. He is literally the only good thing about Ephraim Route 0% because there he joins early enough to get huge warps, instead of having to use trash like Natasha. Unfortunately here he will never reach warp, but he is still the object of our very last long-term objective. We need him to reach rescue by chapter 19, which will require grinding him very diligently. If Duessel's not sufficiently chipped, some of these wyverns will go for Seth instead. This is particularly bad because we've set it up so that some javelin wyverns will suicide on Duessel at 1 range, but we can't do the same for Seth. That's why you had to clip the Dragon Spear here. 25 less avoid against Lance Wyverns. As you can see, Cormag takes a lot of hits there. Kellic would kill him if he hit him. In addition to dodging the Berserker ones, Innes has to dodge either the turn 1 Merc or the Wyvern here. There are enough AI priority tricks going on here, Duessel's at low HP and they want to stand next to friends, that these Javelin Wyverns choose to die rather than attack Duessel from the northeast. Saleh stands here to take out the 2 Pegasus reinforcements that just spawned. Their AS is tanked by the heavy lances they hold, so he can double them. And Cormag has to pierce Kellic here because of what I discussed earlier. He actually perfectly 4-hit kills him, but fort healing gets in the way. On an earlier run, I had used Null to handle these mooks, but he has a harder time getting the body ring, so I switched to Forde. If Seth did Dragon Spear Valter instead of attacking this Shaman, Gerik would take care of the Shaman, and Renak would Wormslayer the last Wyvern. As is, Gerik takes care of the Wyvern and Renak does nothing. The backup for Forde missing an archer too much is a Killer Lance crit. The other archer, fortunately, will still target low HP Forde over Ephraim who can't counter. And it's time to announce the winner of the boss kill sweepstakes that I brought up earlier on Chapter 10's video. Duessel is the other person who gets a boss kill in this run with a Garm crit on Valter. Congratulations to Chest Jump Bull, who got it right even after I did my best to smokescreen him. I'm sure he was pumping his fist when Seth traded the Dragon Spear to Duessel. Like with Cormag, Duessel actually could kill Valter without a Garm crit, except fort healing fucks it up. This chapter is Garm's only hurrah, which is really sad because it's such a powerful weapon. I actually use it in chapter 18 too, but literally only because I felt bad about only using it once. I didn't need to use it there. But I doubt a 3-turn would be very possible without Garm, so give the weapon its due. 20 might and plus 5 speed is absolutely bonkers. If Kellic touches Cormag up here, he will still die, even with the Axe Reaver. But I think the other fighters would both have to hit. Nobody in this area has more than like 30 displayed hit, so Cormag's reliability is okay. Duessel's is kinda bad, but it is a Devil Axe and 2 Lances, and Garm gives plus 5 speed, so he's also sitting fairly pretty. And then Saleh's roll here is 100% reliable. We get the Philly Shield for killing Valter and the Hoplin Guard for killing Kellic here, neither of which actually really comes up. Unfortunately, the Hoplin Guard comes right after the annoying spear bosses that crit you. And that is chapter 15 in 3 turns. We get a Domo, which is good, and Excalibur, which is worthless. And thank you for watching.